Welcome back. You're watching Business Plus. He's known for his eccentric ways, lavish lifestyle and controversy. The Shark Tank judge and BharatPe co-founder Ashneer Grover is once again back in news. The Ashneer Grover family allegedly generated fake invoices that had bank account numbers created for siphoning off money. This as per an Economic Offences Wing probe. According to a preliminary report, the family siphoned off funds from the fintech unicorn on the pretext of offering recruitment services and gave bank account numbers that were created after the dates when they were raised. The details are a part of the investigation into Ashneer Grover after BharatPe filed criminal complaints with the Economic Offences Wing on 17 counts including embezzlement, forgery and criminal breach of trust. All those allegations, of course, on Ashneer Grover, the man who is known, Karthik, for his eccentric ways, who's known for his freewheeling comments on Shark Tank. Those are serious allegations. He has once again denied them.
So, Shweta, I think we've got to look at the context of Ashneer Grover over the last 5 years or so. I think 2018 is when his journey in the public arena pretty much started. And within 5 years, look at the graph of the rise and fall of somebody who was once the poster boy of India's fintech ecosystem, the poster boy of India's startup revolution, a unicorn, and all those great achievements and that upswing that he had, which lasted, I think, all the way till the time he was on the jury of Shark Tank. And then the kind of decline that we've seen. And now I think the transition is complete, at least for immediate understanding as of now, that the poster boy of India's startup success has now become the poster boy of fraud. And I think it's a very, very serious allegation on Ashneer Grover, on the corporate governance that was at play in BharatPe. And of course, it's not just Ashneer Grover alone, but also his wife Madhuri Jain Grover and other family members all have been in cahoots in siphoning off large amounts of money from BharatPe for personal gains. Now, in a private conversation with Madhuri Jain yesterday, I asked her if she denies these claims, and Madhuri Jain has not denied it. I told her, in fact, that this could become a one-sided story if we don't take a comment from her, from Ashneer Grover. And she said, well, go ahead with a one-sided story, and I cannot deny. I mean, she did not say she can't deny, but she neither confirmed nor denied. And she said that go ahead with a one-sided story, if you may. And that is where we are today. So I think just to put this in context and just to bring all our viewers up to speed with what has really led to the rise and fall of Ashneer Grover, let's pull up that timeline, should we? 2018 is when it all started. March 2018 is when Ashneer Grover actually launched BharatPe. What was BharatPe? BharatPe was riding on this wave of fintech revolution, payments, etc., riding on this whole contactless payment surge starting, and it started all the way in March 2018. July is when Ashneer Grover brought in his wife Madhuri Jain Grover and appointed her on the board of BharatPe. So in any case, you could see that, did she have the expertise, skill sets to be on the board or not? We don't know. The jury's out there. December that year, 2018, Grover took over as the CEO. He was the co-founder of BharatPe. He took over as the CEO in December 2018. Now, August 2021, a good almost 2.5 years into the company as the CEO, Ashneer Grover gets elevated as the managing director of the company as well. And this is roughly where you see troubles beginning to kick in. Now, Ashneer Grover himself and Madhuri Jain had their first skirmish, first tussle with Kotak Mahindra Bank over Nykaa's IPO. And Grover had sent a legal notice to the bank. We'll come to that story also later. October 2021, about 2 years ago exactly from today, the GST department, the Directorate General of GST, conducts its first raid at BharatPe. Till then, nobody knew what was going on really and why those raids. Now, a month later, November 2021, Ashneer Grover's claim to fame, sort of becoming a public face, and that sort of rise, exponential rise, began when he was appointed on the jury of Shark Tank. Now, Shark Tank, being a general entertainment channel promoted large ticket show, gave him the kind of popularity that very few startup entrepreneurs had enjoyed at least thus far. That was season 1 of Shark Tank. Jan 2022, there were audio clips allegedly featuring Ashneer Grover and an employee of Kotak Mahindra Bank. And there were also an email spat which was uncovered with then investor Sequoia Capital, which is now called Peak 15 Ventures. In fact, before doing this show, our team had reached out to Sequoia Capital to be on the show, and they denied participation. Jan 2022, Grover is asked to go on or goes himself on voluntary leave. BharatPe announces an independent audit over corporate governance issues, including for the first time financial misgivings done by Ashneer Grover and his wife Madhuri Jain. Those were smaller ticket size frauds that came to light earlier, but then thereon you'll see Feb 2022. The preliminary investigation which was linking Madhuri Jain with financial fraud began to surface. Now, what were these allegations? Now, in Feb 2022, Grover in fact filed for an emergency appeal with the SIAC, but SIAC rejected Grover's plea, Grover's appeal, and continued with its investigation. Now, finally, in Feb 2022, Madhuri Jain was sacked. Remember, Ashneer Grover had already exited the company, went on voluntary leave, and Madhuri Jain was sacked in Feb 2022. December 2022, exactly last year, Grover released his autobiography, not strangely called Doglapan. That was the term that made him popular. Deceit, two-sidedness, double play,
standard.
right? All of that sort of came to play after his Shark Tank, realized fame took him to colleges and public events where he would give speeches, etc. So Doglapan became sort of, his nemesis, so to speak. And that's the name of the autobiography he released. March 2022, Grover resigns from BharatPe and its board. BharatPe then alleges Grover's family had embezzled money. And now cut to December 2022, there is a lawsuit against Grover and Madhuri Jain. Look at the size of that fraud, 81.28 crore rupees. That was the allegation filed by BharatPe against Ashneer Grover, Madhuri Jain and their families. May this year, Delhi's Economic Offences Wing files an FIR against Grover and his family members for alleged fraud. So the story is progressing, and this is where you see the fall really beginning to crumble down. The Economic Parliamentary Investigation, preliminary investigation revealed that recruitment firms are linked with Ashneer Grover and his family, and they have raised backdated invoices. That brings us to present day today, Shweta. Where are we right now? Right now we are talking about a situation where as many as 8 companies have been identified, HR recruitment firms, staffing firms that opened bank accounts well after the date on which they submitted their invoice to BharatPe for payments to be made. Now, these transactions that have been made between BharatPe, their banks and these 8 companies have happened between 2018 and 2021 at a time when Ashneer Grover was co-founder, followed by CEO, followed by MD, and at a time when Madhuri Jain was already in the company and Madhuri Jain was also the head of controls at the company. So very, very clear indications coming. Now, the latest development which came to light with the EOW conducting its investigations and submitting its report to the Delhi High Court is suggesting that as many as perhaps 7.6 crore rupees worth of payments have been made to those 8 staffing firms. Out of those 8 staffing firms, 5 of them created their bank accounts only after invoices were raised to BharatPe. So technically there was no company, and if the company was there, the company did not have a bank account, which pretty much means there was no company, and these invoices, fake invoices were made. EOW has been able to also reconcile the fact that the addresses given on 5 out of these 8 bank accounts are the same address and are the address of one of the family members of Madhuri Jain. So this is where we are today. Yesterday I sent out an email.
So these are basically fronts, these companies are fronts.
Absolutely, these are shell companies, is what it seems.
Right.
There was an email I sent to Ashneer Grover yesterday morning. That email has not yet solicited a reply from him, and my private conversation over WhatsApp with Madhuri Jain, as I've mentioned already, in that conversation at least, she has not denied the setting up of these 8 companies by her family members, and she has not denied that whatever has been cited thus far, neither has she confirmed this.
Right. So, net, there is no development there as far as News9's reach out to both Ashneer Grover and his wife is concerned. Nruthya Madappa, partner 314 Capital, joining us on the show. Nruthya, this is in a sense confirmation of a lot of counts of fraudery, embezzlement, charges that were levied by BharatPe board, the directors, on Ashneer Grover and his wife. How serious are these allegations? And they come at a time when the investigation has been on now for almost 6 months. In a sense, some of these allegations now seem to be moving towards some sort of fruition and conclusion.
The allegations remain serious and severe, but I wouldn't go so far as to say we have any sort of conclusive proof. In fact, drawing opinions on how this will land only rests with the courts who are following due process and the investigative wings. I personally have also not been able to review any of these reports to be able to sort of claim right here on TV my specific opinion on this. But the allegations are incredibly serious. They were very serious when they were made. We seem to have an investigation that is quite fast progressing, with both parties being able to sort of lay enough data and proof on the table across the board. And we're very closely watching this, as this means actually, what is interesting is that while this might seem like a governance failure, what we're seeing in the form of the investigation and the action that the board has taken, and the limited impact it's had on the growth and sort of straightening out of BharatPe's entire operations, one might actually say that that's actually governance in action, where we're having a board that was able to intervene at a time when shareholder and stakeholder value wasn't entirely eroded into the company due to a specific, alleged case of any form of financial misgivings within the company. So that's my stance. We're really all very closely observing how this pans out, but I'm unable to comment on the veracity of any of this, as we've not been able to sort of study this ourselves.
Nruthya, my only question to you, hypothetically speaking at this point, is that assuming that all these allegations are true and assuming that BharatPe has been forthright and has in time been able to raise this allegation and get an investigation started, and that investigation has been underway. My limited question is that what was the rest of the board potentially doing at BharatPe at a time that these invoices were being signed and at a time that these payments were being made?
Every single invoice is rarely ever, brought up to the purview of the entire board. Usually there are very clearly delineated board approval matters, and the chairman and MD and the sort of executive team of the company is typically charged with decision making across most of these other things. So, just again, hypothetically, just giving you an example of how that would work, if these payments out were over a period of time and were of a limited amount, they wouldn't fall within the purview of what the agreement with the board is. So it wouldn't become a board matter to be discussed, reviewed, and sort of executed at the board level. So I have no idea, of course, what happened on this board and why things went by. One of the things that I could hypothesize was some of these payments and these invoices didn't qualify to be brought up to the board for board decision making, and the decisions were made at the administrative level, which obviously had the full trust and were representing the board in their limited capacity. Of course, all of this, is reviewed in the form of audits and forensics that are done on a regular basis, especially in a fintech company. Fintechs in India are obviously held to a much higher standard of governance, given that they impact consumer, retailer money. And this is something that whether the regulator is SEBI or RBI takes extremely seriously. And given that in this particular sense, like with BharatPe's merger with a larger bank and its sort of broader ambitions to become sort of a more regulated entity within India, we would understand some of those controls were quite tight. So for us from the outside, and some of the things we're looking to see is how some of this actually slipped by, and how, if it truly the volume is 80 crores, how something like that could have passed the board's thing. But yeah, that's my...
Right. Nruthya, before I let you go, one of the concerns with startup founders and their tiffs with board members eventually, not just in BharatPe's case and housing.com with Byju's. There have been issues related to corporate governance stemming in the last couple of years. What sort of advice would we have for perhaps a startup founder looking to build something without actually spoiling things over with the board and adhering to the corporate governance laws, at a time where maybe there's not much clarity. Maybe the startup founders who often brush up with external independent board directors know of no other better way to deal with things.
I doubt that, Shweta. You think these guys are so smart with such following, such excellent skills of convincing, communicating,
the repetitive way in
money,
which it's happening.
They won't know. I think they know only too well how to game the system. And sometimes not too well because they get caught red-handed.
I am not sure, Nruthya. What is there a lag in understanding, or is this deliberate? What do we do to not see these cases repeating?
I think it's both ways, right? Like, it's a matter of trust. It's a matter of sort of transparency with the board, and external board members need to earn that trust as well. While there's a contractual level of trust and obligation the company has, for a company, and in our experience, for a founder to come up to you when there is trouble unearthed within it, or they're going through something difficult. In all cases, it isn't a matter of intent to defraud. It sometimes is really just running a fall because you're building a rocket ship as it's sort of like soaring, right? That trust is sort of built from both ways. And when that exists, you really do see founders being a lot more transparent beyond just what is sort of contractually required of them to be, open with.
Right.
And similarly, we need much more robust board members. Like, we need folks who are trained on intervening and working with these. We have phenomenal board members and directors and governance across our public markets and public companies. We need to see some of our private companies also see that level, maybe not that level of onerous requirements on committees and sort of reporting, etc., but that level of engagement on governance early on itself. And it's a matter of relationship building across the board. But if either party believes the other one doesn't know what they're doing, which most founders believe investors are armchair sort of, critics, and investors believe sometimes founders are not listening to some of the strategic advice they give, there's breakdown. Like, it starts with the smallest of things, but bubbles up into a lack of transparency and beyond.
All right. I'm assuming there's no intent to cheat. I'm assuming that there is no intent to defraud, investors. I completely agree, Nruthya, that there is, of course, a lack of communication, which eventually bubbles out into a larger difference within the team and the board. Nruthya Madappa, thank you very much for joining in. Thank you for your words of wisdom. Always good to have you on the show.
Thank you so much.
And shifting focus now, the Dabur Group is in the news recently, but for all the wrong reasons. Days after independent directors of Religare Enterprises opposed a takeover plan bid by the Burman family, promoters of FMCG major Dabur, alleging fraud and breach of regulatory norms. There are reports now suggesting that Mumbai police has also registered a case against 32 people, including Mohit Burman and Gaurav Burman, in Mahadev betting apps case. Now, the Burman family has denied the allegations, has claimed that the timing is suspect as it comes amid the family's bid to in fact increase its existing shareholding of 21.24% in Religare Enterprises and the launch of the open offer. The independent directors of Religare have sent letters to key regulatory authorities and have levelled allegations of fraud and other regulatory breaches against the Burmans. What are these allegations? Let's find out. Shriram Subramanian, founder, MD, InGovern Research, will be joining us very, very shortly. Karthik, these are serious allegations. Let's quickly first understand what's happening with Religare and Burman family's bid to acquire majority shareholding.
It's a slightly complex case, Shweta, so if you'll permit me, I think I'll possibly, take the support of graphics once again. I think it's a day of timelines, but let's actually try and run our viewers through this complex case and all its complexities and try to simplify it as far as possible. Now, what really happened? Let's look at Religare as a company. Up until February 2018, Religare company was actually promoted by Malvinder Singh and Shivinder Singh, MMS and SMS as they were referred to, of the Ranbaxy fame. Ranbaxy, their parental crown jewel, sold to Daiichi. Eventually, we'll not get into that. So there was, in Feb 2018, a misappropriation of 2,400 crore rupees by the Malvinder Singh, Shivinder Mohan Singh brother duo. That is the time when Rashmi Saluja took over as the chairperson of Religare. Now, cut to April 2018, the Burman family already owned about 9.9%, little short of 10% stake in Religare, and they started upping their stake gradually. As of June 2021, in fact, in the month of June 2021, the Burman family put in 570 crore rupees and upped its stake from 9.9% to about 14.5%. A few months later, August, in fact, this year, August 2023, another 534 crore rupees invested by the Burman Group, their stake. And by the Burman Group, I don't really mean Dabur as a conglomerate. Just to clarify, we are talking about the family office of the promoters of Dabur. We are talking about the Burman family and not Dabur, the company. Their stake then up to about 21%. September this year, another infusion, this time an addition of 407 crore rupees, and finally the Burman family office was able to breach the 25% quarter of a company stake in Religare. And this is when, as per SEBI norms, you've got to, if you want to take controlling stake and become the promoter, you've got to go in and launch an open issue. And this is where it all started. 25th September, Burman family finally announced an open offer to acquire another 26%, 25 plus 26, taking it to 51%, and that is pretty much a takeover. They get the controlling stake at Religare. Additional 26% stake, and they offered a 15% premium on the existing share price then, and at a share price of about 235 rupees per share. So they added a premium of 15% on the existing price, 235 rupees per share, and wanted to consider about 2,100 crore rupees worth of consideration and acquire that remaining 26% stake from the market. Now, cut to the allegations that both the parties are making against each other. What is Religare saying? And this happened immediately after that open offer was announced and became public. Religare is saying that there were lapses in corporate governance. What were the lapses? They said that that there was some ESOPs that were available, offered to Rashmi Saluja, and her compensation, which was not in sync with the compensation that most promoters or chairpersons receive annually. Now, what were the allegations against the Burmans? The allegations against the Burmans were that of fraud and collusion with erstwhile promoters Shivinder Singh and Malvinder Singh, and that is the allegation leveled against the Burmans by Religare. Now, let's move on to the rest of the timeline. This year, last few months, 11th October, Religare board seeks independent valuation of the open offer. Up until now, the understanding was that both the parties had agreed on the valuation price, but now an independent valuation exercise is undertaken. 9th November, Religare independent directors write to SEBI, IRDAI, which is the insurance regulator, and RBI, leveling allegations of fraud against the Burman family office. What are the Burmans saying? Burmans refute this claim and they call it baseless. Let's move on. What else have we got? The Burmans on the same day, on 9th November, also raised questions on Rashmi Saluja's compensation. That compensation, according to the Burman family, is 150 crore rupees per annum. This includes salary as well as shares that she sold. They also accused Rashmi Saluja of insider trading as on 20th September. If you remember the earlier timeline, around 20th September this year is when the open offer was being announced by the Burman family. Burman family announcing that Rashmi Saluja knew that perhaps with this offer, share prices are likely to go up, and hence she diluted her stake in the company. 14th November, just 2 days ago, Religare clarifies that Saluja's salary and ESOPs put together are not worth 150 crore rupees, but just about 43 crore rupees. What are the Burmans saying? Now, the news surfaces on the 14th of November about the Burman family promoters, like you mentioned, being involved in the Mahadev betting app scandal, and an FIR as on 7th of November named Mohit Burman and Gaurav Burman among a total of 32 people who have been named in that FIR, in that scandal of Mahadev betting app. Let's move on. 15th November, proxy advisory firm InGovern Research unearthed that Rashmi Saluja was actually denied, and there was a disapproval from insurance regulator IRDAI to issue any ESOPs to Rashmi Saluja. Why IRDAI? Because these ESOPs are of Care Insurance, and Care Insurance being an insurance firm, there was no clearance given, in fact a vehement no given by IRDAI to allot any sort of ESOPs to Rashmi Saluja. Now, what are the various interesting businesses that Religare is into, just for the sake of clarity for our viewers? And this is the Burman family office really wanting to diversify out of FMCG. They've been wanting to get into insurance as a category for a while, but these are the 4 different offerings of Religare. One is Religare Finvest Limited, invests in small and medium enterprises, infuses cash, gives them loan. The other one is Care Health Insurance. Care Health Insurance is why the ESOP and the clarification and approval from IRDAI was required. Then, of course, there is the Housing Finance Corporation called Religare Housing Development Finance Corporation, which issues loans for people who want to invest in real estate. And then there is a Religare Insurance Broking Limited as well. This is a broking arm. The broking arm is again into the real estate sector. So by getting some handle on the Religare Group and by a takeover, hostile or an agreed upon takeover, the Burman family office outside of Dabur gets to play and dabble with all these different industries as well.
All right, I'm told Shriram Subramanian is with us at the moment. Shriram, thank you for taking time out. Quickly run us through what have you uncovered on the basis of your research into Dr. Rashmi Saluja's ESOPs. How incriminating are the takeaways from your research?
So Religare owns 67% of Care Health Insurance. The remaining shares are held by a private equity company called Kedar Capital. But in December 2021, the company, which is Care Health Insurance, said that they will offer ESOPs to Rashmi Saluja in her capacity as a non-executive chairperson on the board of Care. And they applied to IRDA also for approval. But without waiting for the approval of IRDA, in January 2022, they sent a letter of allotment to Rashmi Saluja. That is 2.2 crores options of Care were allotted to Rashmi Saluja. IRDA in May 2022 sent out a letter saying that they have rejected this issue of options for which they had sought approval. 2 is they pointed out that non-executive directors on boards of private insurance companies can get only compensation up to ₹10 lakh. Okay, so these should not be issued. So despite this, subsequently what Care did is that they said that we have issued these options to Rashmi Saluja in her capacity as employee of Religare Enterprises, which is a holding company, not in her capacity as the non-executive director of Care. This is a specious argument, right? I mean, this is a specious argument because IRDA has specifically disallowed and this one. And the second thing is this disclosure has not been made to the real shareholders also, the Religare shareholders also, because the annual reports of 2022-23 doesn't contain this information.
Right. Shriram, what happens from here? I think in the interest of time, everybody would be very curious to know what happens from here. Can the Burman family go ahead and do a hostile takeover of Religare, or is that not going to be as easy as it sounds?
No, definitely. See, hostile takeover means unless there is another bidder, obviously the Burman family already has 25%. Exactly. They can place in front of shareholders and any resolution to remove the board or change the board, and the other shareholders have to vote on it. So that is a process. As
and an open offer which has been offered at a premium of 15% would be luring enough for shareholders to actually divest their holding in the company, and it should be easy enough for the remaining 26% to be acquired by the Burman family.
May not be, because the market price is much higher than the open offer price. So to that extent, it may not be easy for the Burmans to acquire 26%. And I don't think they are also thinking from that perspective, unless they increase the open offer price to probably 300 or thereabouts. because today, so it has to be substantially higher than the current market price.
Okay, and without
right,
any other bidder, in the fray, Shriram, is there any option available with Rashmi Saluja or with the existing board of Religare right now to prevent the Burman family from going ahead and acquiring this 26% stake?
It doesn't look like, because at the end of the day, they are trying various angles. They are making these acquisitions and going ahead and filing complaints with SEBI, etc. But the SAST regulations are quite, I would say, procedural. The moment a takeover offer is triggered, it is just a procedural matter. Investors can tender or not tender. And then obviously, subsequent to the open offer closing, and the Burman's finalizing, or rather we having a clear picture of the Burman shareholding, they can act on the board itself, on either replacing the board or changing the board along with consent of other shareholders, of course.
All right, so the open offer stands at the moment. Before it closes, there'll be a close eye on what the shareholding for the Burman family will be at the end of it. But Shriram Subramanian, thank you so much, sir, for taking time out. Thank you for joining us here on News9. And with that, we have run out of time on the show. Thank you for watching.